So you're in the testing phase. You've decided and made the decision to actually turn your candle making hobby into a candle business. But now you're thinking, where do I actually start? How do I start the process of actually launching my candle business? So today's episode, I'm going to break down the most important things that you should be thinking about in order to launch your candle business in the next 90 days. Welcome to episode 43 of the Candle Business Podcast. If this is your first time joining me here today, hello, my name is Erica, and I run my own small candle business called Memory Box Candle Co. with my husband, Chris. We also have an almost 2-year-old son together that keeps us busy outside of the candle business. But on this podcast, I just like to share everything that I've learned over the last 5 years in business and what I really want to tackle in today's episode to give you some clarity, to give you some direction on where you actually need to be putting your focus if you are in the phase right now where you have been testing your candles, you know you want to start a candle business, but that instinct or that thought in your head comes up of, okay, but where do I actually start? There's so many pieces to the puzzle of actually launching your candle business. So in today's episode, I really want to break down for you your first steps that you can take to actually launch your candle business. Now, if you haven't already, go to my website. It's ericamariemorris.com/checklist. And I have laid out for you an entire candle business launch checklist that you can follow as you are preparing to launch your business. But today's episode, I really just want to break down out of all of that, what is the first things that you should be focused on if you want to launch your business in the next 90 days? So without a doubt, if you're in the testing phase and you know that you want to turn it into a candle business and you want to start thinking in the business mindset, what I want you to be thinking about is your target market and your profit margin first. These two are going to be the foundation of your overall business. So if you don't know who your customers are when you're making your candles, then it's hard for you to know how to form your branding and everything else in your business for your target demographic. And if you don't know what your profit margin is, then you don't know if you're going to actually be making money when those customers buy from you. And understanding who your target demographic is, who you're actually making your products for, is the foundation of your business. It's how you're able to actually build a brand around your candles. So you're not just another business popping up that's selling candles. You want to be a candle brand and you want to be one that's actually standing out from a crowded market. And if you are needing help in this regard, if this is something that you're like, I have no idea where to even start when it comes to creating a brand around my candles, and I don't know about the branding and the marketing side of things because I'm still just kind of in the testing phase, and maybe you haven't even really thought about that, it's something you absolutely need to be thinking about. And if this is something that you are struggling with, I did just recently open enrollment for my Candle Connection course. It's only open until next Monday, June 16th. So if you are needing some clarity, some direction, some answers on where you should be taking your candle business and how to actually form everything together, this course is absolutely for you. It's not too early if you're still in the testing phase, especially if you know that you want to turn it into a candle business. And even if you've already launched your candle business, but you feel like you've kind of just been winging it and you don't really have a strategy down with your branding or marketing, this course will also help you as well. So if you go to ericamariemorris.com/candle connection, you can enroll now. And again, keep in mind, this course is only going to be open until Monday at midnight. And then make sure that you absolutely spend time to figure out your profit margin. You want to make sure and understand exactly how much it's going to cost you to make one of your candles and how much you're going to price it for. Now, keep in mind that pricing varies so much. There is something called perceived value. So it depends on what your customers perceive the value of your candles as being. So of course, there's kind of a market standard, if you will, of taking your cost of goods, multiplying it by 4, and then you can add on 10 to 20% on top of that. Some of you may be thinking that's not enough. Some of you may be thinking that's way too much. Again, it just depends on your market, your target demographic, what they are willing to spend spend, and then also about your branding. If you're able to elevate your branding and really increase the perceived value of your candles, then you're able to charge more for your candles. Something else that gets overlooked a lot that you need to make sure and take into consideration before you launch your candle business is to make sure that you are allowed to make candles and run a business in the place that you live. So if you own your home, this may not be an issue, but if you are renting, you will have to make sure with your landlord or the property management or your leasing office, whoever it is, that you are allowed to make candles. Now, this was something that I did not do when I first started my candle business, and I got very, very lucky that our apartment complex is actually totally cool with it, because we do not have customers coming in and out of our apartment complex to do business with. It's not that we have to have customers in here in order to conduct business. It's we're making the product and shipping it out to the customers. So that is a big differentiating factor. So when it comes time to getting, let's say, your business license through your city, so business licenses are purchased through your specific city. And when you are stating what kind of business you run, you have to make it clear that customers will not be entering your home in order to conduct that business. So that makes a huge difference in terms of the zoning. There's this whole thing about zoning when it comes to business and all that kind of stuff. But when it's a home-based business, I was a little nervous when I was looking to get my business license, but it was actually a pretty easy process. And again, it's just done through your city. You just apply for your business license there. And then I just stated that no customers would be coming in and out of our apartment, which they don't, because everything is shipped out to the customer. Now, when it comes to some other kind of legal sides of things, we already talked about business licenses. Again, that's done through your city. Seller's permits. This is where you are able to essentially collect sales tax on behalf of your state. Now, not all states require the collection of sales tax. So if you live in a state that has no state income tax, one, you're very lucky, and two, you really don't have to worry about this part. But if you do live in a state where there is a requirement of state income tax, you are required to collect sales tax from your customers and remit that back to your state. It's not as scary or complicated as it sounds. Essentially, what you do is when you get your seller's permit, you can give that to your supplier. So let's use Candle Science as an example. So with Candle Science, I got a seller's permit for free from my state website. As soon as I got that issued to me, in this example, this didn't actually happen. It took me a while to figure this out. But in this example, I'm taking this seller's permit and I'm sending it over to Candle Science. So any type of supplies that's used as a finished good in my candles, that is actually not taxed on my end. I don't pay any taxes on those materials. And what I do is when the candle is actually a finished good and I am selling it to somebody in my state, then I am collecting that sales tax and giving it to California. So it's this we're kind of the middleman here. We're the manufacturer. We're kind of the middleman between purchasing it from the supplier, creating the product, and then selling it to the end consumer. Now, if you're selling wholesale to a retailer, they are responsible for remitting that sales tax. When we're selling products to retailers, they don't pay any sales tax when they are purchasing from us because they are responsible for selling it to the end consumer. So it's basically whoever is selling to that end consumer, they are the ones collecting the sales tax. And basically what you do is on Shopify, there is an analytics area that goes over the sales tax collection. And this is just for your state, collecting and remitting sales tax for your state. And it collects it all for me. I see a number, and then all I do is just tell my CPA at the end of the year, my accountant, that this is the number that I collected in sales tax. And then she sets it all up. It gets deducted from my bank account, and then voila, I've given California their money. And then something else you need to do during this pre-launch phase is to make sure that you have opened up a second checking account. It doesn't have to be a separate bank account, just a separate checking account that you can utilize for business transactions. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a business account. I think that legally, I know that when I incorporated and became an S corporation, I had to actually create a business bank account. I could no longer just use a personal bank account as a business account. But I believe if you're just a sole proprietor, or even if you're just an LLC, you can just use a regular checking account for all of your business transactions. And this is just so you're separating things. You don't want to have your personal and business transactions commingling. It's going to make keeping track of all of your bookkeeping just even more challenging. And speaking of bookkeeping, I also recommend that you get some kind of bookkeeping software. Again, if you're just in the beginning stages, it's going to be so much easier for you to keep track of this from the beginning and get it set up now than it would be months and months later on, and then trying to backtrack and get everything handled on there. So I personally use QuickBooks for all of my bookkeeping, and I have for the last 4 or 5 years. And I will link down in the pinned comment down below and in the show notes as well, my link for QuickBooks on the one that I use. And then in terms of keeping track of everything, I also highly recommend getting some kind of inventory software. And if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I have been using Inventora since the very beginning of my business. I think I got on it just a few months into business, honestly. And it has been a lifesaver for us when it comes to organizing everything, keeping track of raw materials, keeping track of finished goods, keeping track of production with wholesale orders. Chris is always on Inventora, getting everything organized on there. So we would be insanely lost without some kind of inventory system. So again, I will have that linked down below as well for you. It's also really, really important for you during this time to figure out how you're actually going to package and ship your candles once they sell. If you're primarily wanting to open up an online shop and sell across the country or the world, wherever you're shipping from, you do have to make sure that you understand how to actually ship your products, how to package them. And I have a ton of free information on my YouTube channel. I have a whole packaging and shipping playlist as well that I will link down below for you, so you can get as much information as possible to make sure that you are protecting your candles during shipment and understanding how to actually purchase a shipping label and how that all works. And then the last thing that I want to discuss in today's episode, because I feel like each of these honestly could be an episode in and of themselves. So I feel like I want to actually go through this checklist and just make an entire in-depth video for this channel and for my podcast, just talking about everything in the launch phase. I know that the launch phase it feels like it's forever. It has been forever, I think, for a lot of you. A lot of you have been thinking about this for a really long time, but you haven't actually been able to make that leap from maker to candle business owner because it's so challenging to get through. A lot of you are really just stuck in that testing phase. But if you want to launch in the next 90 days, one of the main things that you have to have is a platform for customers to actually purchase your products. If you saw my episode, I don't know which episode it was, but it was back a little bit, where I was talking about Shopify versus Etsy and how I would recommend even new makers, even new candle makers, candle business owners, to actually create a Shopify store over an Etsy shop. And I broke down the reasons why in that video, but I just think that it is the best way to actually start with a brand. Creating a brand around your candles is so, so important for standing out. As I was talking about earlier with creating this candle connection course, I know that a lot of new people that are wanting to start a candle business, you're in the testing phase, you're not even thinking about that, and you don't know how important it is. But trust me, as somebody who is 5 years down the line, who just recently figured out about 6, 8, 9 months ago, whatever it was, how important branding is for the success of your business, it is so imperative that you think about it now if you are wanting this to be a successful candle business for you. So what I recommend is to create a Shopify store. I say Shopify because that's all I know. I know there's Wix and Squarespace and all those other places, but I personally use Shopify. So I would recommend to spend time, get your product photography right, get your website designed, created for your target demographic, for your niche, for your ideal customer and making sure that you're speaking directly to them as you are creating your website. And that will lead you to a more successful launch when you do finally launch your business soon. Again, I feel like there's so much that I could share in regards to this topic because there's so much to know when it comes to launching your business, and it can feel so overwhelming. So make sure you download my checklist. This is really for the people that if you are really, gung-ho about launching in the fall, because that's going to be prime time candle making season for you, candle selling season. So in the next 90 days, that's going to put us right in the middle of September. And I really, really want you to have all of this in mind and to do it the best way that I know that you can, and do it better than I did. Honestly, that is my whole thinking, is for you to launch better than I did when I first got started with my candle business. So with that, I am going to end today's episode right here, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Candle Business Podcast. I hope it encouraged you as you move forward in your own candle business journey. If you enjoyed today's episode, or if you've been loving the podcast, I would appreciate it so much if you could take just a few moments to give the show a rating and maybe even a written review so that it can help reach more aspiring business owners just like you. And always remember to spend every day working towards a life that your future self will be proud of.